All right, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 Student Government Association Debate. My name is John Lomax. I'm one of the news editors here at the Cougar, UH's student newspaper, and I will be moderating the debate this evening with our editor-in-chief, Donna Kia.
We would like to thank the candidates for making the time to be here and the guests in the audience for being here to support the voice of students on campus. Also, thank you to the SGA Election Commission for their assistance in putting together this debate. If at any point you cause a disturbance or are notably disrespectful, you will be asked to leave.
All right, now we're going to extend the opportunity to hear a little bit from our vice presidential candidates. We've got Bentley Burke from the Re-elect for the Students Party and Tyler Luke from the Students Unite Party. Each candidate will be asked a question specific to their campaign with up to 2 minutes to respond, followed by a 1-minute rebuttal. There will be a total of 3 questions per candidate, starting with Bentley, and a timekeeper will indicate the time remaining. She's sitting right there in the middle. A signal will be given when 30 seconds are remaining, and then 10 seconds, and then a stop signal will be given. But all right, we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Bentley. So please make an argument for your running mate and why he is the better candidate.
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't think so.
A little
The
switch right here.
on the front.
It's like a little pull it up type of thing.
Awesome. Okay, so my running mate, Joshua Martin, he's actually the one who asked me to run as vice president this semester, and I took him up on his offer because I know he's a great guy, and I've seen the work that he's done, including things like working with directly with UHPD for safety, making sure that we can get lighting going this semester. We'll walk around campus with UHPD and have as many students come out as we can get, and fix any light problems that we might have. We've been working with Favor directly to help students get contraceptive and birth control at an affordable price. And we made sure that, or Josh made sure that syllabuses had to have a sexual assault clause and directly linked to UH resources. And honestly, I just think that he's actually changed SGA, which is the platform that we run on that he ran on last semester. And it doesn't have anything to do with writing bills or anything like that. We've had initiatives and we've put those initiatives into works.
Okay, perfect. Tyler, now you will have the opportunity for a rebuttal. Please refrain from clapping. Please refrain from clapping. Tyler, you can now have a rebuttal.
Right. It's funny that you say that it doesn't take any bills to enact change, although the bills that were enacted included the Dress for Success Act, which enforces a dress code for all SGA meetings, which is on some level elitist. And then what else was it? It was the expansion of the spending cap to $10,000, which was brought down to $1,200 by our predecessor. The $10,000 spending cap is one of the highest in Texas universities. Unfortunately, not even like UT Austin or other campuses allow their students to spend this much on a single campaign. Their prices are in the $700 to $800 range, but there.
Okay.
Enough said.
All righty. It's going to be the same question for you, Tyler. Make an argument for your running mate. Why is he the better candidate?
So, Benjamin, it all started with an Instagram DM, which is not how many fruitful things go, but I was checking my inbox and I saw his message. I agreed to a phone call and I heard the passion in his voice, how he wanted to turn SGA into a machine that could change things for the better for working students. I've been in several, meetings that have gone till midnight in the library with him. I've met some incredible people. He's an amazing judge of character, and I'm honored that I passed his muster. And overall, he is passionate, driven, sleep-deprived. But the things that he's going to do if he gets elected, including the health and wellness platforms. I'm a psychology major. CAPS is very important to me. The safety on campus, getting the lights project started up, and then also our platform for supporting working students, bringing minimum wage from $8 to $10, because our party in the past brought it up from the federal minimum wage of $7.25 to $8. And then our third platform, promoting a sustainable campus, making sure that we use less plastic where it's appropriate, perhaps bamboo straws instead of paper straws, which don't really work. Talking to the sustainability director, I was saddened to hear that our sustainability director, Gabriel, left us in past semesters because their budget runs off of the profit that UH makes. It's not included in their budget. It's whether or not UH makes surplus money
10 seconds.
that sustainability gets, to have the lights on. So that's why I chose Ben.
Okay. Bentley, would you like to rebut anything he said?
Yes, please. So actually what you said about other schools in the area not having the same budget is untrue. Texas Tech has a budget of $18K, and over $10K has been spent at LSU. And I believe that making the budget higher makes it so it's not just a popularity contest here. It allows for freer elections and letting people get their word out to as many people as possible. The other thing I'd like to mention is the minimum wage. That money has to come from somewhere, and that's either we reallocate the budget, so we're taking it away from other programs, or we increase student tuition, which is taking money out of students' pockets as well. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, we've heard the argument about raising student fees before, but honestly, in honesty, I know some pretty smart-ass finance majors in our party, and if we budget correctly,
I'm gonna have to stop you right there. We can't do like a rebut type of thing.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
Sorry, Bentley.
Okay, thank you. So moving back to Bentley, your running mate ran under the platform #ChangeSGA. How do you feel that SGA has changed in the past year, and what still needs to be changed?
Again, this has to do with initiatives. Josh ran on the fact that more initiatives need to be done rather than just relying on the signing of bills, like the initiatives I mentioned before, along with we've done fundraisers for charitable organizations, like we did with ZTA, the Ride to Class for breast cancer awareness. We had students pay a $5 fee to get a ride on one of our golf carts to their class, raising money for, obviously, breast cancer awareness. But we did Cougar Cupboard fundraiser as well, raised $1,000 for supplies for the Cougar Cupboard for anybody with food insecurity, and also had a celebrity b-ball game, or basketball game with, for 50 cents charity for underprivileged communities. So I think that all those initiatives have heavy impact on the community, and to say that only bills really affect what happens here on campus is not really true.
All right, y'all, let's keep the clapping down just for when they come in and out. All right. Tyler, would you like to rebut that at all?
No, I think that they did actually do some positive things on campus, although not in line with their predecessors. They have done some positive things for this campus, and I acknowledge that.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's chill
You
with the
will
clapping.
be asked to leave if you continue clapping.
Yeah. Okay. All right, now, Tyler, the Students Unite Party has in the past been criticized for what some see as the same policies each campaign year. How will this year be different?
It's going to be different because if we are voted into office, we will continue to have the conversations to allocate money and resources towards initiatives and organizations that desperately need it. It's why we've been fighting for minimum wage all along. It's why we've been running for the same things over and over again. It's why, for the students, did, of course, understandably criticize our platforms for being repeated. But inflation has averaged 8% in 2022. And over the past 10 years, annually, inflation was 1.22%. Wages have not kept up with the times at all. So it's just about connecting these students to resources that matter to them. You know, required language on syllabi is not enough. The onus on individuals to seek outreach for help is not enough. We have to do the outreach.
All righty. Bentley, would you like to rebut that?
Just a little. I would say that you've shown that the platform is the exact same every year, but you haven't given us a reason to believe that it will actually change after it's been several years where Students Unite has run student government. One of the platforms that they stand on is decreasing the wage of living here on campus, whereas every year that they've actually run, the cost of living at Moody has increased. So that's about it, actually.
All right. All right, and with that, that concludes the VP portion of tonight's debate. I'd like to thank our VP candidates for coming out tonight. If we now would like to give them a round of applause, go ahead. All right, let's reel it back in. Let's reel it back in. Reel it back in. There we go. All right. Now the first portion, VPs, y'all can go now. Thank y'all for coming. So the first portion of our debate will be opening statements from each candidate. The second portion will be planned questions created by the Cougar, specific to each candidate. And the third part will be general questions written by the Cougar, subject to all candidates randomly selected from this box. And the final part will be questions crowdsourced by UH students through Twitter or through the Google form that was sent out. At the end, each candidate will have the opportunity to give a closing speech.
During the debate, candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. A timekeeper will indicate how much time is remaining. A signal will be given when there are 30 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, and then a stop signal. At the close of the debate, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give closing arguments.
All right, and I understand we're all super gassed up to be out here, doing some student government, but let's chill on the clapping and stuff. We'll do clapping when they come out and when they leave, but let's not do it in between questions, just not to, drag this out for longer than it needs to be. If you become a disruption, you'll be asked to leave. Please keep your cell phones off, and yeah, that's it.
Now allow me to introduce the presidential candidates, starting with Joshua Martin. Okay, that's enough. Okay. And now Benjamin Rizek. Okay, are there any questions before we begin? If not, remember we are doing social media questions on Twitter, so use hashtag UHDebate 2023 if you want us to maybe ask one of your social media questions.
All right, the speaking order for the night will be Joshua first and then Benjamin. That being said, we can go ahead and get started with the introductions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to speak, starting with Joshua, and then each candidate will also have a chance for a rebuttal for up to a minute. So, go ahead, Joshua.
Well, thank you to the moderators, and thank you to all of you who came out tonight. Last year around this time, I ran for student body president of honestly kind of a divided campus. I wanted to change SGA, and my main goal whenever I did that was to flip student government back to the hands of the students. We did this by installing sexual assault reform, educating students on the voting process, and more importantly, listening to the everyday issues that face our student body. Last year, you guys took me on faith, and now there's a record. Students are safer now that the sexual assault partnership between Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg's office and UH is now in every single syllabus so that students can know about the resources available to them. Students are better now that SGA has invested into free Test My Drink cards so that every student can feel safe whenever they're going on their outings. We've registered most students of any university in Texas to vote. Think about that. And with that, we won Mayor Sylvester Turner's early voting challenge. SGA partnered with the Pill Club to provide free birth control and contraceptives to students. And overall, we have reflected Chancellor Catull's goal to become a top 50 public university. We're better off right now than we were this time last year. So now, let's keep it going. Let's launch the Cougar Job Connection by partnering with the Mayor's Office of Education and Higher Houston Youth Program. Let's expand the full support partnership by working with the Cougar Card Committee so we can get the 24-hour sexual assault hotline on the back of every single Cougar card. Let's go and invest our time into Test My Drink cards again to keep our students safe. And most importantly, let's continue to listen to the everyday issues that face our student body. We're going to continue to move U of H forward and to become a top 50 public university. And the first step to doing that is whenever you vote to re-elect me and you vote for the students up and down the ballot on February 27th to March 2nd.
All right, chill. Benjamin, would you like to rebut?
I'd like to rebut.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say that as co-president of Students for Better last semester, I was on the ground filling out voter registration forms, collaborating with many other orgs like D's Not Words, like Texas Rising, like JOLT, many other orgs who were on the ground actually taking care of the work, who were on the ground talking to students about the importance of voting and filling out every single form. And SGA was not out there.
You were behind a table.
Okay, let's keep it to one party.
You didn't go to register nobody, bro. You were behind a table. Don't lie to everybody.
SGA usually like to set up a table real quick, get up on a pedestal, give a real speech real quick, and generally kind of took credit for many initiatives, whether it was voter registration, whether it was taking credit for Mayor Sylvester Turner's challenge. That challenge was already in place beforehand. However,
Done. Sorry.
oh, gotcha.
All righty. Now we're going to go on to your 2-minute introductory speech.
Thank you. I'd like to say I'm honored to be here because I know that many, many students do not have the opportunity to be up here because of many extenuating circumstances, whether it be long hours working at a job, not having enough money to be able to raise the funds, not having enough connections to be able to call up people to get the funds for a campaign, or simply having anything else locked down that either makes or breaks whether you're able to run a campaign or not. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to have learned about the opportunity of SGA, and I want to thank all my supporters for being out here tonight. So I really appreciate it. A big thing that made me come to learn about SGA initially was just first thinking, okay, it's student government. That's all I know. That's all I knew was the name. From there, however, I started to realize from looking at legislation in the past, looking at the Students Unite legislation, seeing all the changes that was made in the administrations of 55th, 56th, 57th admins, that there's a lot that can be done to help alleviate the economic burden students are going through. And it made me decide that this was something I wanted to run for. My father and my mother both worked many jobs while in college. They were working, getting 2 or 3 hours each night, 4 hours of sleep, going through whatever they had to make money and pursue the American dream. My father came from Lebanon to escape the havoc of the Lebanese Civil War in order to, instill the values in me of hard work and of chasing after something with a hustle rather than letting opportunity escape me. And that essentially shaped who I am today, and I'm indebted to my father for that. Overall, frankly, that's basically what formed
10
the
seconds.
platforms of this party, of supporting working students by raising minimum wage to $10, by increasing funding the caps for psychological services, and for reducing plastics use on campus so we can have a more sustainable campus for all.
And that's your time, candidate. All right. Joshua, would you like to rebut anything he said?
I would love to. First, I would like to address, the whole thing about the whole voting thing. He says that we weren't out there, but he wasn't there whenever we were sitting in the meetings with different voter registration organizations. He wasn't there whenever we had those meetings with NextGen and all those different voter registration organizations across the state to get students registered to vote. I'm not going to let this guy sit up here and discredit all the hard work of the people of the 59th administration. Caitlin Biafno, my director of external affairs, put a lot of time, a lot of energy to make sure that we would win Mayor Sylvester Turner's early voting challenge. So what I'm not going to do is let someone get up here and discredit all the work, because my administration of 59th worked their butts off to ensure that we could register as many students to vote as possible. That's what we did, and that's what we're going to continue in the 60th.
Chill, come on. Y'all, we can't do this every time. All right. Okay.
So
All right.
thank you, candidates, for these introductions. We will now move into pre-written questions from the Cougar specific to each candidate. Again, if any of y'all are interested in maybe getting your question answered, hashtag UHDebate 2023 on Twitter. I will be saying that a lot. But we will start with Joshua.
All right, Joshua, for the first question, put simply, what makes you the better candidate?
What makes me the better candidate, one, I have a year of experience in the position. Throughout this past year, we've worked on numerous initiatives, whether that was registering students to vote, whether that was obtaining to test my drink cards, whether that was working with different departments, whether that was my Speaker of the Senate, Ariana Azizi, working with the Pill Club to ensure we had free contraceptive products on campus. People in my administration have done a lot of work, and they worked their butts off, like how I said. What makes me the better candidate is that I have an idea, and I know how we're going to get it done. We're going to invest in our Cougar Job Connection by working with the deans of every single college to ensure that we can create partnerships with local corporations. We're going to work with the Mayor's Office of Education and invest in the Higher Houston Youth Program. They've already said they're willing to work with us. The groundwork is set. So now we just need to make it happen. So what we're going to do is that we're going to sit down with them. We're going to make it happen. We're going to go with numerous other organizations. We've already spoken to many other corporations, some based out of Galveston County, some based out of Fort Bend, some based here in Harris. So what makes me the better candidate is that, one, I know what I'm doing. Two, I have an idea, and I know how to get it done.
All right. Now, Benjamin, would you like to rebut that at all?
Yes. I was really contemplating running against Joshua for a while. I talked to friends. I looked into it. It was ultimately when I looked at the legislative docket and saw that Arsalan Darbin, the first president ever to be impeached, had about triple or possibly even quadruple the amount of bills and resolutions that had been passed under Joshua's administration. And of the few bills that they did pass, most of them were for bylaw revisions, or in the case of the Election Code Revisions Bill, which was passed immediately after administration in the office, which raised the amount of money you're allowed to spend on a campaign from $1,200 to $10,000 and removed term limits so they could run for as many terms as they wanted, based not on the character, not on the commitment you bring to the table for candidacy, but based on how much money you have in your pocket, how much money has been bestowed onto you through political connections or through whatever it means the financial
10
statements say.
seconds.
But overall, a big thing that made me decide to run was advocating for students, advocating for ones who may not have the opportunity.
That's your
but can
time.
now.
All right, now we're going to go ahead. All right, y'all. Come on.
I should be able
Come
to
on,
rebut
chill.
that. He mentioned
Chill.
it numerous times in his statement.
Okay, we can't do like a back and forth thing
I mean, he
either.
did spend triple
We're going
the
to go
amount of it
straight
the
into
first week.
Benjamin's question. It's going to be the same question. Put simply, what makes you the better candidate?
What makes me the better candidate is that I know I'm not going to my dad always rats on me about this. He gets annoyed with it, but he always says when I put my mind to something, I just obsess over it. I get after it. I don't stop until it's done. I know that I can raise the minimum wage to $10. I know that we, Students Unite, can raise the minimum wage to $10 because the minimum wage has been raised before. It was raised from $7.25 to $8 through persistence, through constantly letting people know the agenda, being persistent with people about what we're here to do and why we're here to do it. And I'm going to keep bringing that to the table, whether it be today, whether it be tomorrow, whether it be in 2 months, whether it be after a whole year administration has passed. We want to do everything we can to do more than just raise minimum wage. We want to advocate for future residence hall affordability. We want to invest in renewable energy programs on campus. It's all about persistence. It's all about not letting an issue go. It's all about reconciling the team, having everyone on the same page, making sure that everyone knows why we're here, what we're doing it for, so that we can move forward on the same page, so we can get the drama out of SGA, so we can know why we put in this work, why we keep going, and what makes us want to advocate on behalf of the students.
All right. Joshua, your opportunity to rebut.
Yes, I would. First off, I want to address this guy and everything he said about us not passing bills. For him to sit up here and say that our administration, we haven't done a lot, is completely insensitive. If he thinks that not passing bills makes us ineffective, I want him to tell that to the people who we've kept safe by purchasing Test My Drink cards. I want him to go up to the girls who have come up to my Speaker of the Senate, Ariana Azizi, and have personally thanked her for her hard work in getting contraceptives on campus. I want him to go and look the eyes of the children that we helped by making sure that they would have Christmas presents underneath their tree by raising money for them at Supersized Christmas. And how is he the one to sit up here and talk about financials and spending money when he outspent us 3-1 in the first week of campaigning? Come on now, make it make sense.
Can I rebuttal?
Sorry, what was it? That was a rebuttal, and then so I think now, right? That was a rebuttal. Yeah, that was a rebuttal. Pretty sure. All right, so we're going to go straight into the next question for Joshua. Do you believe that increasing the campaign spending limit to $10,000 makes running for SGA inaccessible to students who do not come from financially connected backgrounds or have access to as many connections or resources?
Regarding the whole campaign's financials, I think we need to look about what happened to the election code originally in the 55th administration. This guy's mentor, Cameron Barrett, wanted to change the election code, and whenever he did, voter turnout in the SGA elections has gone down every single year. Look at it. You can look at it. It's online. And whenever you look at around our state, institutions like Texas Tech use $18,000 on student government elections. Institutions in Louisiana, such as LSU, have spent tens of thousands of dollars purchasing bounce houses and dunk tanks. So whenever you look at it, this is simply something of raising voter turnout. That's what we plan to do, letting people be more creative with their campaigns, and that's what we're going to do. We're really excited about where we are. We've got to look at wherever things come from, and we're really proud of where we're at.
All right, Benjamin, would you like to rebut that?
Yes. Raising the amount of money you're allowed to spend on a campaign does not make a campaign more flexible, as it said in the Daily Cougar article that came out, which showed the means by which you were able to pass the election code revisions bill by essentially tricking the Senate into signing for something they didn't even know they were signing for. Raising the amount of money makes it to where students who otherwise would have brought talent, commitment to the table, to advocating on behalf of students, otherwise will shy away from doing
30
it because
seconds.
they don't have the funds to be able to run. There's ways to advocate for students that doesn't involve pillaging yourself into debt and calling, people for donors.
All right.
Okay, so our next question will be for Benjamin. So having significantly less SGA experience compared to the other candidate, why do you feel you're more qualified to serve the student body?
Well, like I said before, it's if you look at the legislative docket or if you look into the history of how SGA, the last 59th administration, played out. It was filled with drama. They tried getting an election commissioner twice, Spiro Hoxha, who's actually running on our team. He's helped me tremendously in building this team. He went up for election commissioner twice, and despite the attorney general and many other supporters saying he was qualified, they rejected him twice. I noticed an interesting comment in the Daily Cougar article about it, that he said he didn't want to change the election code, which would ring some bells as to maybe why he was rejected twice. But I give that as one example among many others, among a string of miscommunication, lack of persistence in getting out to students on the issues, canceling meetings, and overall seeing the final result of only 7 bills and just a bunch of flashy fundraisers with celebrities and parties in Kansas that essentially result into a statement as to why someone should be more qualified. During my time working for Beto O'Rourke's campaign, I learned lots of skills of basically talking to students, talking to many people about the issues, learning how to organize, learning how to put down a campaign apparatus, which eventually translates into getting down an apparatus for government, being able to make sure everyone's on the same page, make sure why we're here, why we're committed to pursuing the goals we're going after. And I believe that qualifies me a lot more than someone who's essentially been platformed up through political connections, through dark money, and through essentially just having to give it to him.
That's your time.
Okay,
Oh my
so
gosh.
Joshua, if you would like to rebut.
Yes, yes. Well, first, apparently I need to do a little teaching lesson because apparently this guy doesn't even know how SGA legislation works. Because he tries to claim that I tricked the Senate into passing the election code when, there's a process. There's something called a first read. I don't know if you've seen it. You've been doing all this research on SGA, but you didn't even know the process in which bills are passed. So this went through a first read. It went through the Internal Affairs Committee, which has the opportunity to change anything they would like in a piece of legislation. Don't know if you knew that either. Then it went up for a final read, which was voted on unanimously by the Senate. So to get up here and say that I tricked people into voting something just shows that this guy doesn't even know the qualifications for the positions he's running for. Come on, make it make sense, everybody. Come
Oh,
on.
chill.
Okay.
Is it my turn now? All right, next one for Joshua. What would you do during your second term that you could not do in your first?
Well, I think with a new year brings new opportunities. So what we're going to do, I've said it in my platform, we're going to create the Cougar Job Connection by working with Mayor Sylvester Turner's office, Mayor's Office of Education. We're going to work with the local businesses to create a pipeline program so that students can have connections to the jobs that they're trying to get after college. Lots of students, I see them all the time. They don't know what they want to do after college. So what we're going to do is we're going to pair them with these different businesses so that they can get their foot in the door. Secondly, we're going to work with the CTAP program in the Office of Auxiliary Services so that we can make sure that students know about the CTAP program, which is a program to where textbooks are offered to where you can get any textbook at $2.99 a semester. That's completely cheaper than some textbooks that can range for up to $400 for just a singular book. And lastly, another thing that we're going to do is going to create our Listen UH agenda, which is something that we're going to do to meet with different organizations. I know we've talked about having weekly or monthly events. So some things that we're going to do differently this semester and in the next administration, we're going to continue with all these goals. We're also going to expand by adding the 24-hour sexual assault clause to every single syllabus. And we're going to be just as productive. We're going to have that go-get-it mentality. And like I say in the office every day, there's never a day to where there's something that we shouldn't be doing. We're going to keep that mentality. We're going to keep the progress going. And that's what's going to happen whenever everyone here votes for the students.
All right, Benjamin. Y'all, come on. We're being good. All right. Rebuttal.
Big thing overall is that a lot of these services already exist. A lot of them are not new. There are things that many other student governments already have. But essentially with our platform essentially pushes to alleviate all of this. If you increase the minimum wage on campus from $8 as it stands right now to $10, you're going to make it to where students are going to have the opportunity, more time to actually be able to ponder the career they want to go for. There's many students who drive all the way to Rice University to work a job there and then drive all the way back to UH, and then essentially from there with commuting time, with gas increasing, with many other extenuating circumstances, many other costs that aren't covered, might have to drop out of college, might miss the mark. There's many things that in the platform, like CTAP, like the program with the Houston mayor, that already are here, but are essentially just being advertised as something that is new and abound.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is for Benjamin. So under your plan to improve the mental health policy, you want to increase funding for CAPS counselors. As CAPS is a student fee funded department, which alternative department or organization would you want to defund to support this, or would you opt to raise student fees?
You wouldn't necessarily have to raise student fees. There's certain programs, such as in the case of, let's see, there's about 33, SFAC units. Let's say in the case of defunding, you framed it as defunding one org, of just taking all of the money away. rather than having that money go towards free shirts and free Frisbees and free memorabilia, which is essentially just your tuition money marketed towards you as free items when it's your tuition money given back to you in that regard. It could be given back to you in the form of hiring psychologists who have higher pay, so the retention rate will be higher, so they'll be able to provide higher quality care, or in the case of raising the minimum wage, being able to use that income on what you need, whether it be eggs, whether it be food, whether it be gas, or like she just said, with counseling and psychological services, there's programs such as the suicide prevention hotline that need callers that have wait times for a while. I was able to speak with someone from counseling and psychological services, I had the privilege to, who said that, like, we're waiting for funding. We want to expand programs, but we barely have trouble even retaining them. There's students that can't get the care they need, that really want it, that need it, that are really, really close to, maybe even going to a psych ward and simply can't get it
30
because
seconds.
it's a short-term process at CAPS for mental health care, when we want to make it a lot more long-term, make it to where students can get the care they need for as long as they need it.
All right, Joshua, would you like to rebut that?
I would love to. So again, what I'm not going to let Benjamin come up here and do is discredit all of the work that we've done within the 59th administration, because I actually have a fantastic Director of Multicultural Affairs, Victor Castro, who's put in a lot of work with CAPS to ensure that they are to move forward. And what he probably does not know, which I'm sure he doesn't, is that CAPS is already supposed to receive a $50,000 through the JED Foundation partnership that SGA worked super hard to secure this year. So let me tell you guys what we're going to do. We're going to create a mental health coalition with CAPS. We're going to increase the number of focus groups so we can create transparency amongst the student body. And what JED is going to do is that they're going to address the things about CAPS that we are all asking questions about. So why don't we work with these resources, use the $50,000 that JED is going to give us, and actually move our university forward, instead of running on the same platform that they've had in their little fancy flyer that's looked the same for the past 5 years. Same Students Unite. All talk, no results.
All right. Okay. Ben, is it a rebuttal? No, we're moving on now.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. That concludes the Cougars' pre-planned portion of the debate. So we will now move into the second portion, which is randomly selected questions from this box. So each candidate will receive 3 random questions from the box, and we will start with Josh.
Okay. We're doing 3? All right. Josh, let me get the sticker off of this real fast. It's kind of on there, so. There we go. Never mind, definitely not.
We've already asked that question, that's why.
If you aren't elected, how will you remain involved in student government?
Well, I feel like just throughout my past work, no one has to worry about my commitment to student government. Last summer, I didn't have to be here every single day. I made sure I was in the office every single day, listening to the students. Particularly, one thing I loved doing was speaking to the freshman students coming onto our campus and talking to them about the different programs that we have. One thing that we plan to do this summer is that we're going to educate them about CTAP, because lots of students don't know, particularly new students, that CTAP works on an opt-in, opt-out basis. So if students don't know about this, they could be caught in a situation to where they're spending money that they may not need to. So I feel like no one here is going to question my commitment to this job. I put in lots of blood, sweat, tears, countless hours being in the office till 1, 2 a.m. My commitment has been countless. It's not questionable, and we're going to continue all the great work in the 50th administration.
All right, and we will not be doing rebuttals for this section.
Okay, so moving on to Benjamin. How do you plan on increasing transparency in SGA?
Well, something Cameron Barrett actually talked about in the Daily Cougar article of when he talked about when he made his election co-revisions bill after beating Winnie Zane, was constantly being in contact with his senators throughout every week, every process, going through each clause, each section, each article that's being changed, the significance of it, communicating that, going through the contradictions, trying to sort it out with the team. A big thing I want to be able to do is constantly be communicating with my team. I heard, generally there's been you have multiple group chats, you have one clique of senators hating on another clique, you have lots of infighting, you have accusations of many heinous things I don't even want to say up here. But essentially, Students Unite essentially has a history, and I made sure to build that here as well, of building a party that's not here for ambition or for personal gain, but for doing whatever we can to advocate for students, on behalf of the students, trying to go through every process we can to essentially tell the students, this is what we're doing, here's what we're going to do, whether it be changing the amount of money you let us spend, showing which program, whether it be Frontier Fiesta or Coop TV is getting more funding than the other, or in terms of the child learning centers. There's many, many things we want to be able to do. And in order to do that, you have to communicate with your team. You have to communicate with everyone. You have to be able to show accountability. And you have to let everyone know that they have worth. They bring something to the table. And that's the culture I want to bring to SGA.
All right, moving back to Josh. Let's see. What, in your opinion, is the biggest struggle that UH students face, and what will you do to address it during your term?
I think one thing that UH students struggle to face is just learning about the resources that are available to them. That's why we worked with the Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg on the full support partnership, so we can have resources such as free rape kits, a 24-hour sexual assault hotline, and many others. That's why we're working with the Cougar Card Committee to get the sexual assault clause in the syllabus for the next year. That's why we're working on having a transparency outreach program on CTAP, so we can make sure that students are saving as much money as possible. What a lot of people don't know is that the university has so many materials, so many programs that are so beneficial to the student body. So now, let's make sure that students know about them. Let's go to our freshman orientations and talk to about them. Let's go and work with the student centers and put signage up in the student centers and outside and all over so students can see them. Let's go out there and get the different senators and emerging leaders to go and talk about it in their respective colleges. Let's work together so we can make sure that students know about the great work that SGA and all the different campus departments are doing.
All right.
Okay, so Benjamin, many of you are running under platforms of diversity. What plans do you have to ensure students feel safe and welcome at the University of Houston?
Well, one big platform we want to, program we want to invest in is the International Student Program, in which we want to be able to allow students who are from various places all over the world to be able to transition into being here at UH. There's many, many things you have to account for: change of culture, change of scenery, being away from home and family and friends, and essentially trying to, understand, the place we've gone to, UH, University of Houston, which is so diverse but still has a lot to do, has a lot of work to be done on trying to address many forms of discrimination wherever it may be. And essentially, in that regard, what we want to do is invest more funding into the International Trade Program, into the International Mentorship Program, so we can ensure that students, wherever they may come from, whatever background they may be going from, can actually be acclimated, can essentially make it here at UH.
Okay, and then to Joshua, if you could adopt one of the opposition party's platforms, which would you choose and why, or why not if you wouldn't choose one?
Got to think about this one. If I were to think about if we're being honest, frankly, I don't even know what really much their platform even says. But one thing I do know, I think it says something. Well, let me just think about the traditional Students Unite platform with the same push cards they've given out for the past 5 years. Let's see. I think they said something in there about sustainability. And one thing I do like about sustainability, about actually having to get that done, is that recently within the 59th administration, we actually were the first administration to introduce a Department of Sustainability. So one thing what I want to do is I want to keep that connection going. I want to increase the partnership. I want to delegate the director, or now to be Secretary of Sustainability, to go and be a part of the University Sustainability Committee so we can go and look at different options. I know that whenever we introduced the Sustainability Department, the sustainability director took me on a walk around campus, talked about when we looked at the recycling, everything that's going on there. So that's probably one thing that I would like to be done. And how I'm going to do it is, like how I said, putting them on that committee, walking around the campus with them, going around to see what we can do to improve the sustainability on our campus. But that's my plan, and that's how we're actually going to get it done.
All right.
Okay, and so for our last random question. Okay, so Benjamin, please give an example of how you plan to accomplish one of the priorities listed on your party's platform.
Well, a big one I've been telling everyone about is raising minimum wage. I did a lot of research into how essentially you're going to go about advocating to administration what you're going to do, what the proper steps you need to go to in order to get minimum wage raised. And essentially, we're going to communicate with auxiliary services, going to talk a lot with the Vice President of Affairs, Keith Kawaka, on what they did last time with doing it, which was essentially conducting studies, going over a study of how much money needed to be raised, or rather, what needed to be accomplished in regards to which funds are being distributed in order to raise that. And the thing is, with SFAC money is not involved with the minimum wage. It's a completely separate department. So your student fee would not go up. It's all in the university's power to be able to raise it based on going over how much money it would cost to the budget of the programs, of diverting it from, let's say, for example, like I said earlier, DSAES services. A big thing you have to do is be transparent, talk to the students about, talk to the administration about the benefits that would come from investing in these programs, come from raising minimum wage, and that is essentially through investing, through talking to the administration, being transparent about how easy it would be to raise minimum wage. That's how you get it done.
All right, thank you all. That concludes the random questions portion of our debate. We'll now be moving on to questions from social media and from the Google form. All right, our first question for Josh is from the Google form, so we don't have a name, but trans and queer students continue to be discriminated against, and they feel uncomfortable on campus. What would you do to protect LGBTQIA+ students, and how would you create a safe and inclusive environment for our community?
I think that the answer to that, of what we need to do, we need to go and work with the LGBTQ+ Resource Center, which is actually some of our neighbors in Student Center North. I know actually recently, just a week or two ago, we actually went in there. I had a meeting with the new director. We're wanting to create a program of how we can promote safety for all students on our campus, all 48,000 students on our campus. So one thing that we can do, we're going to continue to have these talks. We're going to continue to put a plan in action of how we're going to get it done so that all students can feel safe. Whenever you come to the University of Houston, it should feel like your second home. No matter where you come from, what you look like, or anything, you should feel like this is your second home. All students should feel safe on this campus, and as far as LGBTQ+ students go, we're going to work with the Resource Center to make sure they feel safe too, because at the end of the day, those are students on our campus as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our next question, also anonymous, is for Benjamin. Please share your thoughts about the November 2022 incident involving a UHPD officer pointing a weapon at a Black student, and how you can support students in the aftermath.
A big problem with the way society even views policing is that you just invest more and more into security. You don't put enough into actually going to the root causes of where violence, or where essentially a crime comes from. A big problem is that we're too quick with let's say UHPD or any police department to, go straight for the gun rather than actually evaluating the situation, seeing that in the case of Dominic Champion, it was a piece of paper, and that, let's say with communication, there was lots of a chain reaction of miscommunication involving police. I believe a police director lied about his mother, actually, in the case of saying that what they were doing was according to procedure. And that's essentially a big theme that has been apparent in how UH has resolved or attempted to resolve issues by essentially sweeping it under the rug or trying to bury it in the details. And it's important that we're able to establish a very clear chain of command, which department is working with another, which chain is essentially not focused on who to blame for the problem, who to blame for why yellow vests were
30
distributed,
seconds.
but based on, who do we go to? Who do we go to figure out? Who do we go to get on the same page? And that's something I want to do. I want to be more transparent with how we address who's in charge and who's in charge of doing what.
All right, thank you. Our next question for Joshua is, do you have any ideas of how to make parking more student-friendly?
Of course. So one thing that we've done within this past year is that we've actually worked with the Senior Vice Chancellor, Raymond Bartlett, and Emily Mesa on a plan to actually address parking on our campus. One thing that we plan on doing within the next administration is sitting down to continue to talk to them. I know as far as parking and transportation services goes, we're working on expanding the services of Cougar Rides. We're trying to make that a weekly program, a 24/7 program, to where on weekends, where lots of students are going out, having a good time, we want to make sure that we have them covered whenever they get back so we can get them back to their dorms safely. Additionally, we want to continue to expand the services that parking offers, such as the Cougar Line, more access to shuttles to Sugar Land, because we have more students going there within the next year with the College of Engineering phasing in with the College of Technology. So what we want to do, we want to continue to sit down with them, talk about how we're going to allocate different funds to parking and transportation services so that we can ensure that we move UH forward with UH parking and ultimately benefit the student body as a whole.
Okay, thank you. And so now we will move into our final anonymous question, which is for Benjamin. What are your plans to use SGA's annual base budget of $161,352 to effectively use student fees and make meaningful and lasting change on campus?
Well, it goes back to the party platforms. A big thing that has been done in the past under Students Unite administrations was actually doubling the amount of psychologists that were at CAPS during, I believe, the 55th administration. A big thing we want to do is, like I keep saying, raise the minimum wage. It doesn't even involve using the SFAC budget, as I've explained before. Another big part of our platform is essentially increasing funding towards the LGBTQ Resource Center, as well as going towards Frontier Fiesta Activities Funding Board in order to fund the programs, the cultural fiestas that students are pushing forward to build more community, to build more engagement on campus, to do what is necessary to essentially build community and push for what's necessary to get students to alleviating the economic burden on their shoulders.
All right. So we're doing this one? Okay. Josh, how do you plan to deal with the lighting project on campus?
Excuse me? I didn't hear you.
How do you plan to deal or address the lighting project on campus?
Oh, of course. So actually, one thing that we plan to do is create our Light UH campaign. And what that's going to do, so I know that UHPD, they annually host an event called Walk in the Dark. to where every student in the student body is invited to go out, list areas on campus to where they don't feel the safest, and UHPD will actually mark that down and get that addressed. So what we're going to do in this Like UH campaign is basically going to be a hotline to where students can report that to us year-round, not just at the Walk in the Dark, so that we can take their concerns up to UHPD and the different services so we can make sure that students feel safe whenever they're walking. I know that I actually had a student on my campaign actually come up to me because they live at Bayou Oaks and said that the lighting over there is not the safest, and a lot of people's cars are getting broken into. It's a really terrible thing. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up the Light UH campaign so students can come to us with their concerns, and so we can get the lighting project fixed. Another thing that we're going to do is that Vice Chancellor Raymond Bartlett asked me to sit on the Centennial Planning Committee. And what we're going to do with that, I've actually been tasked with working on the lighting. So with the Centennial coming up in the next 4 years, we're going to be working on adding different accent lighting to the university, whether that be in trees, whether that be in the ground, so we can ensure that students feel more safe whenever they're walking late at night, so we can ensure that the student body moves forward overall.
Okay, thank you. And that question was from Twitter from Zara G. And our final social media question is from Twitter from Jacob Thomas. For Benjamin, what would you do in your first month in office if you were to win? What plans do you have for that first month?
Immediately once getting in office, big plan of ours is to amend the election code to lower the amount of money you're allowed to spend on a campaign down to $1,200, make it to where every student has an opportunity to run, reinstate term limits. That includes for me as well. I would not want to run for another term. I want every student to have the opportunity to be able to serve, to be able to express whatever issues may be on their mind, whatever's necessary to address the needs of the student body. So complete overhaul of the bills, of the clauses that were removed in the election code revisions bill of the 59th administration, as well as making it to where you can report what's funded on your campaign at market value. So it's not, borrowing money from paying for 10,000 flyers for 1 cent. You wouldn't have that problem. You'd be able to show exactly what you paid for on your finance forms. And then from there, immediately going straight into advocating for minimum wage increase, for increasing funding towards counseling and psychological services, and for when it comes to reducing plastics use, going for bamboo straws. I know a problem that was experienced under Arsalan Darbar's administration with reducing plastics was the paper straws were damp. They kind of just sunk away very quickly. However, with bamboo, it's compostable. It's able to be once used, be able to then go towards, let's say, Cougar Garden, which is another program I want to bring back for sustainable campus. Used to have compost bins around campus for food waste, in which essentially food waste isn't going to be just limited to Cougar Woods or Moody Dining, but be able to be distributed around campus, to be able to have students essentially be able to attend to a garden, be able to learn where their food comes from.
And that's time. Okay. So that concludes our questioning portion of tonight's debate. So we want to give y'all the opportunity to have your concluding speeches for 2 minutes with no rebuttal. And this time we are going to go ahead and start with Benjamin.
All right, y'all, please save your clapping or whatever for after both of them have gone, then y'all can go crazy.
Every time I visit my family in Lebanon, I see scathing examples of inequality and brutish corruption. I love to see my family there. I love to spend time and be away from the internet for a little bit. It's always fun. But one thing that my father told me about in regards to the Lebanese Civil War was that it's usually in the textbooks portrayed as a religious war. However, he summed it up as warring sides on a political aisle, fighting each other in that regard to gain political power. But it didn't start with violence. It started with things like this. It started with making it to where people can't afford necessary goods, can't afford to be able to have a voice in the political process. Corruption of this kind is what destroyed my father's country, and it's what's starting to affect the U.S. today. In 2010, or it was early 2000 teens, there was a Supreme Court case that allowed election code funding, not election code, election spending to just skyrocket, as essentially allowing whoever raises the most funds to essentially be the winner. And I mean, if this is something that's going to corrupt student government at the lowest level of elected office, what does it say about our society? What does it say about our values and what we're trying to set an example for the rest of us to follow? A big thing that made me decide to run more than just this was running on the platform of just uplifting the student voice, voices that aren't heard normally, voices that have to work many, many hours at a low-paying job with zero benefits.
10 seconds.
Just to be able to survive. I want to do whatever I can to increase CAPS funding. I want to do whatever I can to raise the minimum wage so students can be able to have affordable living, be able to
And that's
do
your
whatever
time.
is necessary to get on equal footing.
All right, now we're going to go straight into Josh.
You know, this past year, serving the student body here at the University of Houston has been the honor of my life. I've had the chance to make great relationships with people within the 59th administration and just have been able to make relationships with plenty of students across the student body at the University of Houston. We've done great work, whether that are the different programs I talked about tonight, and we have a plan to move our university forward into the centennial year. But one thing that is clear on our campaign is that students accept and they support the work that we've been able to do within this past year. We've had a lot of great times together, and that's why we're supported by members of and different organizations. That's why we're supported by Black Student Union. That's why we're supported by First Generation Cougs. That's why we're supported by the Muslim Student Association. That's why we're supported by Fashion and Business. That's why we're supported by Young Life. That's why we're supported by C100. That's why we're supported by Phi Beta Sigma. That's why we're supported by African Student Union, Nigerian Students Association, Kappa Sigma, Tau Kappa Epsilon, Chi Omega, the Catholic Cougs, the Roe New Nursing Association, Sigma Pi, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Omega OD Phi, because they all realize that we're a student government that's going to advocate for them, that's always advocated for them, and is going to continue to listen to them within the next year. That's why we're going to continue to move forward. We're not going to let anyone halt the progress of moving forward, and that's what's going to happen whenever you rise up for the students to move UH forward. Thank you, guys. As always, go Cougs!
All right. Okay, so, all right. With that concludes our 2023 presidential debate. I would like to thank both of our candidates for coming out tonight. Thank all of y'all for coming out tonight, and I will now be passing the mic over to the SGA Chief Election Commissioner for closing remarks and instructions on voting.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. Can we just give one more round of applause to our presidential and vice presidential candidates? Yeah. Thank you. Great, thank you. So we all have to remember that this is not the easiest thing to do, to stand here in front of all of you and to deliver their party platforms, but good job. Thank you for being accountable to your students. But all of this would be lost if not for you guys now doing your job, which is to get out to the ballots next week, Monday to Thursday. So voting is online through Get Involved. You can vote from any time. Even in the middle of the night, you can hop on your internet and you can vote through Get Involved. And the Election Commission is actually doing a very interesting giveaway. This year, we're giving away a 50-inch TV. We're giving away an air fryer, an electric scooter, and a Polaroid camera. So as soon as you vote, you are entered into this giveaway. So make sure that you vote between Monday the 27th and Thursday, March 2nd. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and have a great evening, and go Cougs.
Thank y'all all for heading out. The Daily Cougar.